People who separated, divorced within 1 year of getting married. When did you know it was a mistake? 1. When she pulled a knife a month in, I still stayed for a full year like an idiot. 2. A couple of weeks into our marriage, the sex started to physically hurt. I went to my OB and after a test or two, she informed me I had contracted chlamydia. That's when I knew. Turns out, my newlywed husband had been banging his coworker for months. 3. Knew before we even got married. Spoke about how I thought it didn't feel right with my family a couple months before the big day but was told it was just cold feet and we'd be fine after the wedding. Almost a year later I was still miserable so I left. Was an absolute shitstorm but so worth it. 4. I actually knew before I was just too scared to do anything about it. 5. Not me but my brother, and I think seeing her on top of her boss did the trick. 6. Not me, but a cousin. Me and my family were at her wedding reception sitting outside on a deck. My cousin comes out to sit with us for a bit and pulls out a pack of cigarettes. Her first words were, "Please don't tell him I smoke." They moved to California a few weeks later and divorced within a week of being there. Should mention they were engaged before she got out of high school. 7. Not me, but my cousin and her husband met at work. Both independent and career-focused. When they got back from the honeymoon he immediately started treating her like his mom and told her she would need to give up work to look after the house. No talk of that before the wedding at all. I think they lasted 4 weeks married. 8. A cousin of mine married someone who seemed like the perfect woman. They worked in the same store together, and he would brag about how his wife was getting promoted quickly in the company. A few months into the marriage, she tells him she's going out with friends for the evening. An hour or so later, my cousin gets a call from one of his friends. The friend saw her having dinner in a restaurant with the manager of the store that they both worked at. Once he confronted her about it, that was basically the end of the marriage. 9. Girl I know. 1 month in she found out he cheated the day of the wedding. 10. I got married shortly after tech school. About 4 months after, we made plans for her to move from NC to TX to join me, as I am in the military and can't move. 3 times I brought it up, 3 times she said she just needed more time to move, finally the 4th time she said she couldn't leave her friends and family to move across the country to start our lives together. A year later, we were divorced, or well, I divorced her. She obviously didn't come down to Texas for that, signed a waiver of citation to not get any news about it, so I basically got to divorce myself, which, after hearing how vindictive ex-spouses can be, I chalked that up to a blessing. 11. My brother died a week after the wedding and after about 2 months, he told me that was just too big of a thing to happen in the beginning of a marriage. I tried for 6 more months and then just gave up. 12. Friend of mine. Very religious couple, never had sex before marriage. Told H she was gay 2 weeks before their 1 year. 13. Not me but a female friend knew approximately 4 to 6 weeks into marriage. Her husband at the time basically spent a few years prior to marriage being a bit of a salesman to everyone. Once they got behind closed doors his traditional marriage roots really came out. They both had fast-moving careers, and while he was okay with her making money and having a career, he also expected her to cook, clean, take care of the dogs, etc. and never lifted a finger. He would just come home and pound drinks until dinner time. 14. Not technically within a year but when I returned from my first deployment 10 months, I found out she had been sleeping with 3 of my buddies. Told her to pack her shit and get the fuck out. 15. This thread is making me feel better about leaving my incredibly drab engagement with a guy who I wasn't really in love with or attracted to anymore. 16. It's a tie between when my friends pointed out that I had to ask for permission to do anything and reading what his grandmother wrote about me in the family newsletter they sent out. I should have left when he ran away from my stepdad's house at Thanksgiving because he thought he was allergic to weed and they were going to kill him. He's a doctor now so I hope he looks back on himself at 19 and feels dumb for that. Also we'd been engaged for like a year and I don't think he ever told his parents. I feel really dumb in retrospect. 17. When I was in Iraq and she posted a picture on Facebook of her and another guy laying in bed together, it was obvious that they had just hooked up. Don't get married to fix relationships, pro-life tip. 18. Before we even got married. I never wanted kids and never wanted to get married, which he knew. Lo and behold, I got pregnant. He wanted to keep the baby. I had no health insurance, so we got married. Love my daughter to death, but getting married was the worst mistake of my life, and I knew before we got married that we were doing it for the wrong reasons. PS to the ladies out there, never trust a guy when he says his doctor told him that he's infertile because he has slow swimmers. I was stupid enough to believe him. 19 less than a year into actively trying to get pregnant, he got discouraged, gave up and started staying out until 4:15 a.m. with his coworker. He posted selfies on her couch on Snapchat and even went as far as asking her to marry him once he could get rid of me. He had 2 biological children, my stepchildren, that he abandoned at home with me while he was out doing this. The icing on the cake was that on my favorite holiday, while holding my brand new baby nephew in front of his entire family, he told me he wanted a divorce. I was gone in 2 weeks, left everything to him, and vanished. New number, new address, everything. Best choice I ever made. 20 when I found out he had $500K in debt that he hadn't told me about beforehand. Yes, we had a prenup. He just lied about it on the prenup. 21 when she fucked her ex within the first 6 months. 22 I knew it was a mistake about 2 months into our engagement. I actually broke up with her for a week but didn't tell anyone other than my parents. Something just didn't feel right. She ended up begging me every single day and I just felt really bad and got back with her. We pretended like it never happened. Got married 9 months later and she ended up cheating on me a little over a year into our marriage. I still don't fucking understand her logic behind all that, but whatever. It's done and I've moved on, but I'll never understand why she wanted me back so badly and did that not even 2 years later. 23 the day after the wedding when he poked me in the chest and said, "You're going to do what I say whether you like it or not." Ah. Big mistake. 24 my Bill got married and divorced within 6 weeks. They were both alcoholics and got drunk and decided to fight each other. She ended up with a black eye and had him arrested. She moved out the next day. They are both still on debt over it. 25 before it even happened, but felt like I was obligated to do it. Communication wasn't available readily then, so it was the first time I had seen him since he went overseas to travel. As soon as it happened, I turned to him and said, "We have to get this annulled." He refused, and I told my dad the same thing. My dad encouraged me to do it for God, so I roughed it through, until the guy beat me up and tried to kidnap my 6-week-old daughter. The only reason he didn't get to her is because I physically put myself over her. I am convinced now that the point of that marriage was to give me my beautiful girl, who led me to the love of my life, her adoptive father. Leave a like if you liked the video, also subscribe for more of the best new AskReddit stories. Thanks for watching.